What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to the 2024 WWE Survivor Series WarGames Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show podcast from Smark Moment Smack Talk. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, flying solo Sikoa on this edition. As you can see, I am going to be breaking down the usual stuff here. We're going to talk about what just happened at Survivor Series, my thoughts on what happened, the match winners, results breakdown, all that good stuff, where we're going to go in the future from my prediction side of things. I am not currently watching. I have on my screen right now the post show, but I do not have my earbuds in or anything. So I know that Rhea Ripley is currently talking. I don't know what she's talking about. I'm sure if it's something super important, somebody will end up mentioning something. I have a goal set up on the live chat for anybody that's interested. If we get, I believe it's 5 super chats, then when we get to, round that out, then we'll end up having a bonus episode for this month. Either a fan announce table or a fantasy booking of some sort. Probably something related to WarGames or Survivor Series. Probably do that in the next week or so. Keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, show your support in all the different ways that you can, whether you are live or you are listening after the fact. Hit the like button on this video. Double check you are subscribed. Ring that notification bell. Get all the stuff going for the Marketplace stuff that I normally talk about. You've got the Redbubble and TeePublic shops if you want to pick up merchandise. Got the join button. It gets access to, I can speak, to the different tiers that you would get over on Patreon. Same things like the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier, all that good stuff. Ad block forgiveness tier is another one of those things. Or if you just want to lend a hand, $1 a month or something, it still is something that's greatly, greatly appreciated. So keep all that stuff in mind. Also keep in mind the Discord server for anybody that wants to just chat it up on a regular basis. On all those different channels that we have over on there. I see we currently have the full women's WarGames team that won, and 3 of them are wearing the little birthday hats. I don't know, is it supposed to be Naomi's birthday? Is that what the whole thing is? Why she was wearing this little... I thought it was a dunce cap at first, and then I thought it was just like a horn, like a glowing horn or something. And then I realized that it was a birthday thing, but I didn't think that they would still be having that going on. So I don't know, they're giggling about something. But obviously Peter's in the chat here. What's up, Peter? I'm surprised no Chelsea green in her hometown. It's Naomi's birthday today. Okay, so Naomi felt the need to not only have the birthday thing going on, in the post-show side of it, but on the pay-per-view. That's a little strange. Yeah, so let's break down what happened all throughout this thing. Of course, the very first thing that happened on the pay-per-view was the pre-show, and the pre-show doesn't really count because nothing happened on the pre-show. It was just a bunch of video packages and kind of filler content like that. So 2 hours worth of, you didn't need to watch it whatsoever. And then we get into the first match of the night, the women's WarGames match, which had the babyface team Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley filling in for Jade Cargill. They were victorious over the team that none of these have team names, which is a shame because I like when Survivor Series used to call themselves the Renegades or the Royal Court or whatever it might be. I like those teams quite a bit, hence the whole Time Machine Dream Team thing. The heel team that came up short, I'll give you the breakdown of how everybody came out. So it started out with Nia Jax and Bayley. Then it went into Candice LeRae, Bianca Belair, Tiffany Stratton, Io Sky, Raquel Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley, and then Liv Morgan, who tried to walk away, brought back a baseball bat. At that point, a bunch of people had brought in a bunch of different weapons. There was a fire extinguisher. There was a toilet seat for some reason. I really don't understand why the toilet seat was there. Maybe somebody was just playing a little practical joke or something. I don't know. But they're all celebrating again on the post show with something. It seems like they're just basically saying yay for Naomi. I don't know. So they had their the toilet seat and stuff, which I thought was a little strange. And I got some different reactions from different people throughout this where people were just saying that it was pretty awful. And I didn't think that it was horrendously bad, but I didn't think that it was really all that great. So I have to admit that it really wasn't all that amazing and spectacular. How many times can we see, for instance, the same spot with EO where she has a trash can and she does a moonsault off of the top of the WarGames thing? She's done this, this has to be, if it's not her 3rd time, it's her 4th, maybe 6th time doing this, it's just not going to pop me anymore. Even if she has like her own personalized trash can, which I thought was kind of funny. It really just like, there's not much going on here that I can really talk about. There were moments where it was fine. There were moments where it was a little sloppy. Like there was a section of it where Io had a steel chair and she started to like get ready to go on the attack. And then I guess she realized that like nobody was ready for her to do that. So she just sort of like slinked away and, you know, opted not to continue the attack. You know, it's, I hate to be like so dismissive, but if you missed it, you didn't really miss it. That's, you know, one of the catchphrases of this podcast is if you missed it, you didn't really miss anything. But yeah, I think that if you watch like a few clips of this, you'll see the big moments that are worth seeing. And then the rest of it, you don't need to bother with. So babyfaces come out on top. Rhea Ripley had an interesting face mask on. She eventually took it off. She gets the win by pinning Liv Morgan. So at this point, they did make a point of reiterating that Io is in line for a title shot. And now that Rhea has pinned Rhea has pinned Liv, I'm wondering if they're going to go for like a triple threat, or if they're just going to bypass Io, or if it's going to be Io gets the title shot next and then Rhea gets a shot after that, or I don't know exactly how they're planning on doing this. I think it's a little bit sloppy, and I don't think that this is necessarily what they wanted to do either. I think that they've kind of been just like flying by the seat of their pants for a lot of this. So I'm hoping that it all works out. I don't have the biggest amount of faith in the world. They did a little Money in the Bank cash-in tease. Tiffany Stratton didn't pull the trigger on any of that. So again, that's just kind of sitting around in play. But definitely not my favorite women's WarGames match we've ever had. I should say that. For a lot of people, I'm sure that they liked it. And, you know, I didn't absolutely hate it or anything along those lines. I just thought that it was like, yeah, it is what it is. So the thing that surprised me the most on this pay-per-view, though, was what happened next. And that was the United States Championship match where LA Knight lost the title to Shinsuke Nakamura. And I had completely written this off as like, all right, well, LA Knight's just going to beat Shinsuke. They barely gave him any kind of a big enough boost to be able to challenge for this, let alone, you know, they're not going to give him the belt afterward. It's going to be LA Knight, just has somebody else to feud with in the meantime. And then, you know, LA Knight's going to retain, and then maybe they continue the feud going into the next month, and then you just kind of drag it around a little bit. And LA Knight's in the Royal Rumble, and then you don't have to worry about an opponent for him for the first little bit of the year, and then you start getting into who he fights at WrestleMania. Now, with Shinsuke winning it, I can't tell you anybody that makes sense to me to be the next person that beats him for the title. Because SmackDown doesn't really have baby faces that are in that range right now. And if you really look at the roster, I don't even think that there's people that can necessarily turn babyface from heel in a way that would make a lot of sense. Because the groups that they have on SmackDown, if you rule out all the people that are currently heels, and, you know, Austin Theory, you know, all the Bloodline people and everything, they're in a spot where you start having to look at like, all right, it's not going to be Apollo Crews. AJ Styles is injured. LA Knight could win the title back, but I don't know why they would need to take the title from him just to have him win it back. Cody is way too big, of course, for this. Randy Orton's too big for this. And then who are you left with? Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Street Profits. So unless you split the tag teams up, but you keep one of them babyface and you push them enough to be able to beat Shinsuke, which I don't think is going to happen at WrestleMania either. I don't think that WrestleMania's got Shinsuke Nakamura going in as champion. Then what are they planning on doing? You know, is Carmelo Hayes going to turn babyface and he's going to win the title? I don't think so. I don't think it would make sense to give it to Andrade. It's not going to be Santos. He's a heel. So I'm pretty baffled on this. I think that maybe I'm just underselling what they plan on doing with Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know. But I just didn't have faith that Shinsuke was going to be the United States champion. And, you know, looking at the amount of people that they have on the roster, it doesn't really strike me as the best solution either. So it's very shocking, and I'm kind of baffled of who is going to be the next champion. But that's interesting. At least, it'll keep my attention of like trying to figure out what's next for this. So, Shinsuke Nakamura is the new United States champion. Crazy. Then we switched over to the Intercontinental title. Triple threat. Bron Breakker successfully retains over Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. Take a drink real quick. This one, at this point, I was like, all right, well, they're not going to do 2 title changes in a row. And then as much as I assumed that Bron Breakker and LA Knight were very clearly going to retain, and I was totally wrong about LA Knight, I was like, all right, well, now I know there can't possibly be a way that Bron Breakker loses. And he didn't. He pinned Sheamus. He retains his title. They had another good match, too. I like this better than the Shinsuke Nakamura and LA Knight match. I'd say I like this better than the women's WarGames in some ways. In some other ways, it's hard to kind of compete with like weaponry and multi-people and 2 cages and all that spiel. But overall, I enjoyed this segment. I thought they did a good enough job. I am at a point, though, that I don't want to see any of these 3 feuding anymore. I think that they've already told everything that they need to tell, like both in the ring and outside of the ring. I don't know what the extra angle would be that would like keep my attention and keep my interest. So if they plan on having any kind of further, Bron Breakker up against Sheamus or Ludwig Kaiser against Sheamus or, the 3 of them against each other, whatever it might be. If they plan on continuing that, I think that they need to introduce some new element to this. Like either they go with like, another 4th person gets brought into the mix, or they put like some stipulation that's not just like a brawl scenario, 2 out of 3 falls type thing or something. I don't know, but they reached I think a pretty definitive ending here. So Bron Breakker should just move on. I see the Sheamus is being like treated with his wounds right now on the post show. I don't know what they're necessarily talking about, but they just showed him doing that. So hiccups. So the future of the Intercontinental title, I still don't know where that's going to go either, but I feel a little bit safer on that than I do with the Nakamura United States title situation. Peter's throwing out there Bron versus Sheamus in a last chance match. I do want Sheamus to win that Intercontinental title. I just don't think that I want him to beat Bron Breakker for it. I almost kind of want him to beat somebody else a little bit later on this year. But if they can come back around to that in a way that makes sense, then I wouldn't be opposed to it either. I don't know if they're going to turn Breakker babyface by the time he loses the title and he loses it to like a Bronson Reed, or if he's going to drop it to like a Drew McIntyre, or maybe he loses it to like who's like a babyface on Raw right now, like a Damian Priest or something. Speaking of Damian Priest, by the way, he loses his match against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship in a way that like none of us wanted to see happen, which was they're having a normal match and all. It gets to a point where Breakker's on the outside and the referee is distracted, and Finn Balor comes around and he hits him with the coup de grace, and then it ends up being, the same setup as what we had for SummerSlam. So I forget what the statistic was, but WrestleVotes had mentioned that this is, maybe it's either the first time that's ever happened in history, or maybe this was like this hasn't happened since XYZ, but that the same match for the same championship is happening at SummerSlam and Survivor Series in the same year. And it's like, well, it also has the same finish of Finn Balor coming out and screwing over Damian Priest. So I didn't like that. I don't want to see Finn Balor and Damian Priest feud for the next however long. I've been kind of sick and tired of this feud, and it's been going on long enough as it is, so they really don't need to stretch it out any further. And I really, really do not want them to stretch it out until WrestleMania. This is not a feud that should last for SummerSlam through Mania. It doesn't have the legs for it. It's proven that it doesn't have the legs to last from SummerSlam to Survivor Series, I feel. And then on top of that, if you're going to stretch it out even further, this needs to end at the very longest. It should end by Saturday night's main event. It shouldn't have been here anyways. It is. Sanjeet Ramesh in the chat. I feel you, Tony, Damian, Finn, Liv, Rhea's gone on for too long. Liv and Rhea, same thing. I feel like that needs to end at Saturday night's main event. If it doesn't end before that, then it needs to end there. I don't want to see Liv and Rhea. I especially don't want to see some kind of scenario where it's like, all right, well, EO is the next in line, so we get EO and Liv, and then that takes us throughout to the end of December, and then we're January, and we really don't want to do anything in January because we have Royal Rumble at the beginning of February, so let's just dawdle. And then at the Royal Rumble, then Rhea can win the Royal Rumble, and then we can do Rhea and Liv at WrestleMania. I don't want to wait 6 months more to see the end of this feud when this feud should have arguably ended several months ago. And that's just like, they reach a point where they do this with a lot of things, where they go like, well, we've crossed a certain threshold and we should now take it to Mania. Well, that works for some feuds, but other feuds, it's just because you've already gone on long. So that's why you've crossed that threshold. Doesn't mean that you should stretch it longer. It just means that you should have ended already. You know, we've seen plenty times in the past, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton type scenarios that happened twice. And, you know, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, I forget which year that was, but that was the one that like just kind of went on forever. So I don't want that to be the case. You know, Gillies in the chat too. I think that's the issue with the Judgment Day storyline, is that it's Women's World Championship appears to only revolve around them. Yeah, it's I want the Judgment Day to just collapse. I want Dom to do his own thing. I want Carlito to... Honestly, I kind of want Carlito to go to NXT. That sounds kind of harsh, but I kind of want Carlito in NXT. I want JD McDonough and Finn Balor to continue to be a tag team, but I don't want them to really be the tag team champions anymore. I don't want Damian Priest feuding with them. I don't want Liv and Raquel to be involved in the Judgment Day anymore. I want this whole thing to collapse. So we'll see if I get what I want. I am feeling a little bit more inclined to believe that Rhea Ripley's winning that title sooner rather than later, now that she specifically beat Liv Morgan. But then again, every time that I feel like that kind of thing happens, then I feel like they go in a different direction. So maybe I should not really count my, what's the phrase? Count my eggs before they hatch, or count my chickens before they hatch, or I don't know, whatever it is. All the eggs are in the same basket anyway. So, so that is going to continue. I'm sure Finn Balor versus Damian Priest going forward in some kind of fashion, and Gunther is just going to move on to somebody else. I don't know who. It could be CM Punk. Could be Seth Rollins. I don't know. So, the final match of the night, men's WarGames match. Here's the order of what we got. We got Tonga and Jey Uso starting things off. Then it was Bronson Reed, then Jimmy Uso. Then it was supposed to be Tonga Loa, but Solo Sikoa stopped him and sent Jacob Fatu out instead. Then it was going to be potentially CM Punk, and Roman Reigns stopped him, and Sami Zayn went out instead. Tonga Loa came out. CM Punk pushed Roman Reigns out of the way to get into the match. Solo Sikoa finishes his team. And then Roman Reigns comes out. And by the time Roman's heading towards the ring, the whole thing that we've seen a million different times before, where Solo Sikoa just locks the cage because it's like, well, now you're not going to be able to get in. So Roman climbs the cage, gets in that way. Not as good of a climber as Tama Tonga, but then how many of them actually would be? Tama Tonga was like spider monkeying his way throughout the cage when he first came in. I thought that was pretty funny. The match from, you know, the pre-bell ringing, now the War Games will begin kind of a scenario. Some lull moments, but still, you know, pretty fun. And when the bell rang, then they kind of kicked things into gear a little bit more. A lot of people calling for some different kind of heel turn type stuff happening here. We actually didn't get anything all that crazy. The babyface team pulls themselves together. They have a couple moments of a little bit of tension, but they end up looking past that. And this ends with Roman and his crew all surrounding Solo Sikoa. And then Roman pins Solo Sikoa. CM Punk's got a moment in there where he pulls Roman Reigns off of the table. So that way it's like, okay, well, he just saved you. So maybe that whole idea about the favor thing might come into play. Punk is now joining the Usos and Sami Zayn on the post show, but Roman Reigns is not there. I'm not at all surprised. Unless they say something on this post show, it kind of doesn't feel like there's an angle coming out of this. And I was waiting afterward for a while thinking, okay, well, is The Rock going to come out? Are they going to do some kind of a Punk then attacks Roman and, it's something like that or whatever? No, they just win. That's it. So I liked the match. This was the best match of the night. Not my favorite WarGames match, not my favorite cage match, any of that stuff, but it still was a fun match. I am disappointed that there wasn't anything afterward, to be perfectly honest. I think that there probably should have been some other kind of a button on this maybe, but not every pay-per-view can have like some big game-changing thing happen, so that's perfectly okay too. I do still think, though, that WarGames shouldn't just come around every year a clockwork when it comes to Survivor Series, and this is proving that even more so. Like, these matches didn't need to be on November 30th. They could have very easily had these exact same matches at Saturday night's main event. They could have had it at Crown Jewel. They could have done this, take away Bronson Reed and CM Punk, and this could have happened a month ago. I still don't think that they need to have Survivor Series WarGames in that kind of capacity. So this didn't change my mind about that. If anything, it kind of reiterated it pretty much. And I had seen somebody say this, and I don't remember who it was, so I can't give them credit for it, but they had said the women's WarGames match in particular was a match that needed women in it rather than a group of women that needed a WarGames match. And I think that kind of is applicable here really well. Reading some other stuff in the chat, Gilly says, I think that's the issue with the Judgment Day storyline is women. So how of them leaving Rhea? I mean, let's see. I think Carlito should sign a Legends contract. Everyone was sleeping during this match, so slow. Yeah, I like the OG Bloodline winning. I'm slightly annoyed that The Rock didn't appear, but the match itself was fun. Yeah. Too many babyface wins, and nothing comes from most of the results here. Very much true. Glad for a sufficient quick video getting through the matches. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I have nothing to say, and it's partially because I really kind of don't have anything to say. Like, this was a fun enough pay-per-view, but it's not some, monumental, oh my God, there's so much to break down thing. The group of women that were baby faces won a match against a group of heels that has no stakes whatsoever. Shinsuke won that title. Totally shocking. No idea where they go from there. Braun Breaker retains his. Gunther retains his. The Finn Balor, Damian Priest story is still going on, so that's nothing that's new whatsoever. And then the Bloodline loses to, or the new Bloodline loses to the OG Bloodline. Nothing with Punk. No Rock. No anything, on that front. So it looks like they're out of macaroons on the post show. That they must have had like macaroons, I guess. Very overrated kind of dessert, by the way. I'm not a big macaroon fan. Coconut macaroons, I like those, but the macarons, like the little circle disc kind of things, not a big fan of them. So where do they go from here? Well, we know Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens is happening at Saturday night's main event, and we don't really know anything else other than the finals for the United States Championship on the women's side, which we currently don't know who is going to be in the finals, so the next couple weeks are going to round that out. And at some point, CM Punk is going to have a favor from Paul Heyman. What that is, when that is happening, all of that good stuff, that's, setting up something for the future. No Rock here, so nothing as like repercussions for that. This has no bearing on whether or not Solo Sikoa is still quote unquote the tribal chief and the Ulafala. There's no trading that over because they won WarGames or anything. I kind of feel, to be perfectly honest, like this pay-per-view really didn't need to happen. And Shinsuke could have beaten LA Knight on Survivor Series, on Friday Night SmackDown. And then the rest of the results, if this just didn't take place, it wouldn't change the history of what's going on. So I'm a little bit disappointed on that front. The pay-per-view itself, though, it wasn't bad. So, take that for what you may. That's really all I got to say at this point. I think I've exhausted all the point of view that I had. I mean, I don't know if anything on this is going to be written down on my end of the year awards, except for maybe I might give a shout out to like Rhea Ripley for like the wardrobe side of things. But really, that's it. And I hope that Jacob Fatu is not injured. He was grabbing his leg in a weird way, so maybe there might be something there, but I hope not. I don't know. while I do my plugs, if you guys want to toss out any other questions or something like that, then Otis wasn't Otis wasn't wearing pants. Yeah, that was a weird segment. Yeah, so keep in mind, we've got things like the Fantasy League. I believe that Rob won the predictions for this pay-per-view, so at some point we're going to have a little powwow, talk about what his different results are from that, like who he picks to trade off or do whatever they plan on doing. I don't remember how that whole setup is. Looks like Jay Uso is going to steal the 2 macaroons that are left. Now Punk got one of them. He got to whatever the green one was. There you go. I'm giving you live commentary. Keep in mind the Fantasy League stuff. Keep in mind if you go to WWEFantasyLeague.com, you'll find out what the latest updates that Callum has had on there. I mentioned the Darkcast. There's going to be some future Darkcast stuff coming your way. I don't know if there's going to be 1 in the next week or so, or 2 or 3, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to try to record quite a bit, but I can't make any 100% promises. There is at least going to be 1 coming up in the next 2 weeks. Whether or not I end up doing the 3 or 4 that I was hoping to do, that's all going to depend on my timing, and it depends on if I can get Rob or Callum to join for any of those, or if I just want to do them on my own or whatever. I do want to kind of hit some more Darkcasts, though. I want to kind of back end this year with a little bit of a thank you for everybody who's on the Darkcast tier, to just be can give you multiple ones. We're trying to figure out also plans for the end of the year awards. That stuff is going to be potentially tweaked a little bit this year. I don't know exactly how, but stay tuned for more on the stuff on that front. Obviously, go to fanboysanonymous.com to see if I get a chance to do anything on Fanboys. I really want to. I really need to, but other things keep taking priority. And this marketplace stuff that I always mention, keep all that in mind. Keep in mind the link tree at amangotree.com. We can find links to the Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous stuff and elsewhere. Follow me at Tony Mango. Did you know Mickie James is 5-0 at Survivor Series? Is she? Oh, I didn't know that. So Mickie and probably Randy Orton might have the best records. I know Randy Orton's got a really good record for Survivor Series. I don't know if anybody else saw that. Good for Mickie. Always thought Mickie was underrated. All right, guys. Well, that is going to do me in for this. So thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for checking out the future episodes that are coming your way, because we do have some other stuff happening, over the course of the next few days. We're going to be going our predictions for NXT Deadline. Of course, we're going to have the post show. Look at that. I already have the graphic ready to go for the post show for NXT Deadline. We got a round of the hot tags in between there. And we also have at least potentially 1 Darkcast, if not maybe 2 or so. More that, somewhere around the lines I'm going to squeeze in there. Maybe I end up recording one of them on Wednesday. Maybe I end up recording some on another day. I don't know. Just stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Set up all that stuff. Keep checking out smarkoutmoment.com. And I'll see you when I see you, everyone. But that's going to do me in. So adios for now. This has been another Smark Out Moment. And I am being counted out.